When did you realize you weren't a child anymore? When being healed became an annoyance. As a kid, you get pampered by your parents and get to stay home from school. As an adult, the responsibilities you have don't magically go away anymore, so you're both miserable and stressed out. When I realized that it costs money just to exist. I had recently moved into my first apartment and just loaded up on groceries at the store. Checked the mail when I got home and discovered my first water and electric/gas bills. I remember thinking, is it going to cost me more money to exist for the rest of my life? When I had financial freedom from my parents and began to struggle, that shit hits you like a brick wall. When a little girl walked past me and said to her mother, "I like that lady's scarf." Lady? When I asked for a Swiffer wet jet as a birthday present. When an adult tried to make small talk about the weather with me. 27 and still not sure. 32 and still a kid. Now, kids, your uncle is building a fort for himself out of cushions. Maybe he'll let you in if you ask. I had graduated university, had a place of my own and a job, and was out doing some shopping. It occurred to me that I could and probably should just go ahead and buy some beer and some cookies. Not for any kind of event or occasion, but just so I have them in stock at home. I wasn't planning to go home and drink 10 beers and eat a bag of cookies. I didn't even want either of them that day. I was just living a normal life and thought it would be good to have that stuff in stock. I remember it clearly. I had just moved into my first apartment 1,000 miles from my hometown alone. Got everything moved in and set up. Didn't have much then. A bed, a TV, a couch, that was pretty much it. I had a rough day at work, lots of complaining customers and "let me talk to your supervisor" moments, and I was exhausted and emotionally drained. I opened the door to my apartment and there was silence. No noise from siblings, no parents sitting on the couch watching TV, no friends wanting to hang out, just the oppressing silence of an empty apartment with nothing on the walls. The kind of silence that echoes when you say. I stood in my doorway and had the realization that I'm alone in a big city with no support system, friends, or family to help me if things don't work out. It was a lot to take in all at once. When I realized that I'm going bald already, at least I have no problem growing a non-patchy beard, so I became the typical bald guy with a beard. When I realized I could eat Nutella for dinner and no one would say a word. When I realized the adults in my life have no idea of what they are doing. They were just winging it. That hit me like a baseball bat when I realized that adults are not adult because they now know what they're doing. Rather because their parents' generation decided not to put up with their kids' shit anymore because they're 18 and good luck with that. When I realized that just because I have the money for a thing, it doesn't mean I can afford it. When I saw my first paycheck and how much I'd been taxed. I had a pulmonary embolism at 21. I sat in the waiting room for 12 hours because they didn't realize what it was at first. Then they began asking me for my social security number and all of this other information and trying to convince me to pay for my service now, so I could save 25% off my total bill. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here not being able to breathe and feeling woozy and in a lot of pain. I had just gotten out of school and was working part-time, and after this pulmonary embolism, I was unable to work for a few months. A month of that was spent in the hospital. But that didn't stop them from coming after me. I did everything I could to pay off my bill. Eventually I did. So imagine my surprise when I had a police officer show up at my work and serve me. That's when I found out that hospitals have different departments that charge you separately. So, while I paid off the radiology department, the physician's bill wasn't paid and as such they sued me. I think that's when I fully realized that I was an adult and that the world was full of adults whose sole purpose in life was to pull money out of my wallet. My mom told me she couldn't call to make appointments for me anymore or handle my medical/legal business since I'm too old. Fucked me up. Was so confused since I was coddled for way too long. Almost 21 and still learning how to make professional phone calls. Finally, at probably the age of 20 or so, being able to get myself to eat okay food and have a semi-normal sleeping schedule, and be able to complete basic tasks of life, finally. Now, I thought I was no longer a child probably around 15 when I decided I knew all the real secrets of life and humanity, largely due to a single reading and total misinterpretation of Camus the Stranger. But then I went to college, almost at the age of majority and voting, and I realized I could not function on my own for even the smallest things in life. I couldn't do my homework in time, I couldn't get to sleep at a decent hour and get enough sleep to function the next day. I was eating horrible food that was horrible for me. I think there were days where I ate nothing but sugared cereal, ramen and cookie dough. Many days. I could not figure out how to get through day-to-day life and still be able to do my own laundry. It would pile up so much and stress me out to the point where I started having sort of magical thinking that if I didn't put the worn clothes in the laundry bag/basket/hamper and just let them air out, they would be okay to wear in a day or two. I'm serious, I could not even eat or sleep in a way that allowed me to function as a human without the guidance of my parents, who were very hands-off to begin with. I went to college convinced I was basically an adult. Once I got there, I realized I was basically an infant. At 22, after my family passed away, I went from being a college student worrying about finals to suddenly making end-of-life care decisions and being the executor of their combined state. I definitely struggled through the first few years, but things really started to click when I turned 25. Because of my experience handling my family's estate and learning how to manage assets, I turned out to be a pretty decent investor and ultimately found a career in finance because of it. College freshman at 18 years old. I was on the bus going from my dorm to the classroom buildings. It was a big urban campus. I had just started growing a beard. A small boy, about 4 or 5 years old, looked directly at me and then said to his mother, "That man looks like Uncle Dennis. Maybe he's Uncle Dennis's brother." I was no longer that boy, I was that man, and old enough to be mistaken for an uncle. And now I know I'm middle-aged man because that small child, whoever he is now in his early 30s. First time I had to make my own dentist appointment. Sounds stupid, but I credit my mom for forcing me to do it on my own once I could drive myself there. I've heard way too many stories of people who just stopped making routine doctor's appointments after their parents stopped making them. I was at a hospital with a broken wrist and crying a lot because I've never broken a bone, so this pain was new and god-awful. So I was sobbing and they didn't let my mom in the room with me. Then the doctor snapped at me like, "Why are you crying so much? He's gonna heal, it'll be fine, stop crying." And I explained the pain was a lot and I was so confused as to why she was being so mean to me. "I'm just a kid, I am in pain, please be nice." And then I realized I was a 21-year-old and was being treated like an adult. Not like the child I am in my head, lol. Was a bit of a wake-up call that I'm not 17 anymore.